Hi everyone, welcome to Kersalé, the podcast that puts you in the shoes of the member of the European Parliament and that tackles topics that are close to your heart and raise your cortisol level. Today I have the pleasure to be with Emma Kersalé. Emma, thank you for being here today and welcome.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Would you like to introduce yourself before we reveal the topic of today's episode?
Sure, I think it's going to be a bit in my description. So I'm an art director and creative consultant. I worked before in a consultancy as a creative director and a graphic designer. And before that, I worked in advertising as an art director, junior art director. It was a long time ago.
Looks like you had different lives already.
Yeah.
And to give a bit of context, we met with Emma during the recording of the trilogy Tackling Toxicity at Work. And we started to talk about her activities and about how much soft skills were underrated. Mm-hmm. We came to the conclusion that it always looks like a nice addition on the CV. It looks like it doesn't require so much effort. It's easy to get and easy to apply, especially because of this usual dichotomy between hard skills and soft skills. So I wanted to ask you if you agree, of course, because you shared with me privately a bit about that. But I wanted to know if you could share a bit with us one or two anecdotes when really your creative work was underrated or a bit neglected by your clients.
Sure. Happened a few times because I think people don't know what to do with, especially like in the EU sphere, what to do with a creative person or graphic designer. So you're a little bit between, can you beautify this PowerPoint? To, can you make this idea worldwide? And literally there's something in the middle that we can find. But I had more often, can you beautify this PowerPoint? Or can you make this campaign exist just on a PowerPoint and we're going to send it through email? I noticed that in soft skill, even if I really don't like the idea of soft skill, hard skills, I don't see the problem of, that creative is a soft skill. Anyway, it's we'll talk about this later. Yeah, perhaps like talking about how like creativity, I found in general that creativity in the EU sphere is seen as either also as, oh, you artistic, or is just a nice way to find solutions. And actually, it's like everyone has a different type of creativity. So it's true that some people who are really solution-oriented, and for this, you need your creativity. Some people are more strategic. Some people are more like, there's architects. Some people are more leading, and some people are more crafty. So I don't think you should neglect at any point creativity because it's appearing in plenty of different ways, and it's not only being crafty or just beautify something or just being a graphic designer or like a video or anything that is just in communication. Creativity is like can be literally everywhere, and it's a way of having ideas. And I think it's something we lack a lot, and something that is very neglected is having ideas. Good ideas, either for policy or for policy communication. We need good ideas.
Yeah, perhaps we have a tendency, especially in the EU bubble, to put people in boxes. And especially when it comes to the creativity part, if it's not in the job description, then it's not something that is really expected. And actually, it's connected to another idea, because I think that it looks like these misconceptions about soft skills may come from the fact that sometimes we have difficulties to define them because soft skills are so broad and so complex sometimes. For example, often I can see that people put on their LinkedIn or on their CV that they are good at communication. But being good at communication can mean for one person being a good public speaker. Mm-hmm. For a second person, it could mean being able to write good press releases. And then you have also to define what is a good press release. And for a third person, it could also be being able to publish relevant social media content. So these are quite different activities. So I was wondering if maybe we need to be also clearer at defining soft skills to underline how much they are important and useful, and it's not just a nice addition to have. And then I would even go further and ask you, do you think that it's still relevant in today's current job market to have this dichotomy between hard and soft skills?
I don't find that even calling it soft, it's like, what is it soft? It's actually, compared to hard skills, it's something like, even in the terms, like I have really some issues to understand, actually, where we call it like soft. It feels a bit like meh. I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit as actually, I find it can be a fuel. Can be a fuel to write a press release. It can be a fuel also to find, new ideas in policy. So I find like, the terms are a bit not aligned with actually how the people feel. I think, and what the people want to do. And it's also something that it has to be in your resume. So it's like you learned or you're born like this. And sometimes you can be in your career, you have a job that is a bit less creative. And at some point you can have a job that asks you a lot of creativity. And creativity is like a muscle. The more you train it, the more you're going to have ideas, the more you're going to be solution oriented, or the more you're going to be strategic, the more you're going to be perhaps crafty or see things, visualize things. So it really depends on the moment of your career, the moment in your life. So I find it's a bit tough to say when you see, for example, in LinkedIn applications, so you have to be creative. It's a bit, I don't know.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? It's like it lacks a lot of substance, I found. And no, this hard skill, soft skill, it really feels like, for example, if like me, like as for me, my job description is creative consultant, so I'm a soft consultant. I don't know, it's super weird. I don't know. I find it's something a bit irrelevant at the moment, right now. But I found the way to apply now is a bit also. Anyway, perhaps we're going to cut that, but I don't think
No, it makes sense because to me also, when I thought about it, when, preparing also this episode, I was like, it sounds like soft skills are, about being vulnerable or weak, and hard skills is something, you need to justify it with diplomas and degrees, and you cannot put them on the same level. Whereas and we're going to come to that, but having these soft skills it's not an easy thing at all. I think it can even be more difficult because it requires more self-awareness and more awareness of the world around you, having a certain emotional intelligence that we do not necessarily find in hard skills, with precise data, figures, no emotions implied. So it totally makes sense. And one of your priorities lately is to vulgarize this knowledge about the creative process. You want to make it a bit more accessible to all in the EU bubble. And, you highlight that creativity is indeed accessible to all, but you said it's like a muscle. So you need to practice, you need to stimulate it, and also you need to know that you don't have so much space left for ego in the creative process. I remember that we discussed about it a bit already, and I wanted to ask if you could elaborate on these thoughts around what it takes and what kind of efforts are required for people to embrace their own creativity, especially when we are in such a context where we lack of time, it's not popular, we deprioritize having this kind of relationship to ourselves to develop creativity.
So as you said, and as I often repeat, creativity is a muscle, and I hear plenty of people saying, "Oh no, I'm not creative. It's like, I don't need also people to be able to draw. It will be great if we can learn at the same time as writing and drawing. But anyway, everyone is creativity. Everyone has this in them. Is just to learn what type of creativity you are. What type of, for example, we said, memories, you have visual memories, you have like audio memories. It's a bit the same as creativity. For example, my creativity is visual. Like you talk to me about something, I'm going to see something. So I'm very crafty. But perhaps some people are going to use their creativity again to find solution, or like to build something. And this really depends on, creativity is the way, kind of the solution for an idea. When you start to have the need of an idea, it's at this moment you're going to be creative. You're going to have to find ways to get out of there, or again, build something, or to visualize something. So it's really at this moment that the creative process is starting. It's not before. It's really it's before. Like the moment is like the need of an idea. Mm-hmm. So even when you think about policymakers, they are creative. They have to be creative because they need ideas to make laws. They need ideas to, for example, to understand the citizens, or to talk to the citizens. So each time it's starting there, and then you have the entire creative process. And we don't talk about this because we talked about it before as well, that creative process is something very personal, very intimate, that people don't really understand, because there's like creative process goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's related to how you grew up, how your education went, what your personality is. But there's some similitude that, for example, that you're excited by something. When you have the idea, it's not concrete, you have it, there's a bit of adrenaline, like, oh great, it's gonna happen. And then there's a reality check, it's like, oh shit, it's not gonna work. Or like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this, oh, it's gonna be huge. And there's also, when you're trying to find ideas, this kind of plateau moment. It's a bit like every like creative people who are using their creativity every day, who are putting themselves in this very uncomfortable zone, know exactly the moment of like, okay, I'm tired, I'm blocked. And if you keep on going, it's going to build so much stress. And it's what we call the white page. And what you have to do is find a different way, like to accept that it's your brain who needs to relax, think about something else, or just train on something. Perhaps repetition can work. It really depends on the person again. But it's kind of the beginning of explaining what the creative process is. And until we don't really look at it, we don't think about it, people are going to say, I'm not creative, or I'm always blocked, or I don't have ideas. Actually, everyone can. It's just, again, it's a sport, it's a training, it's a muscle to have.
It sounds like being able to go into the creative process requires to know ourselves a lot, because the more you were talking about it, and the more I was like, wow, it's like going through a therapy. Because you need to know yourself. And maybe also that's why it's not that popular in the EU bubble, because it's not that often, I would say, that you can see that even when you have job descriptions for policymakers, that creativity is required, or as you said, it stays very vague. Mm-hmm. But indeed, when you want to have a successful campaign, you have to be very much self-aware. First of all, to be able to build this campaign, and you have to be aware of the surroundings and, of course, of the policy issue to make it successful. So, would you say maybe that those that are not doing successful campaigns are people that are not very much self-aware and not connected enough to themselves?
I think there's three things. I think I'll try to make an order. I think the first thing to do a good campaign, and also how to be really creative, is to know your audience and don't imagine your audience. Really know it and think always broader than just a small focus group. Always think a bit broader. Teamwork, never think that creativity also is an alone job. You talk to people, You have ideas with people, even if I think that brainstorming with 20 people is not efficient at all, is the worst. And perhaps like we can talk about the ego thing, that put your ego on the side. You shouldn't have like your ego in the middle of the table when you do something for someone else, when it's an order, because you're going to be disappointed. It's going to be and it's going to touch you, and it is not going to work. So I always give this trick that when you do a creative job, especially in communication or in policy communication, you have like something else on the side that no one can touch. Like, for example, me, I do water paintings, and seriously, there's like 5 people who sees my water paintings. I do like birthday cards in water painting, and that's it. Like, no one else sees it, because it's a way of putting my ego somewhere else to be efficient in my job. And if someone else said, oh no, I don't like it, no problem. Like, my ego is not there. So I think it's a few things to make like a more creative campaign. After that's successful, there's plenty of different parameters, but I think for the creativity, I think it's kind of a good start. And I think also another point is to think also with a concept. There's a lot of campaigns that I see within the EU bubble that have, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 messages in one campaign, and messages are way too complicated sometimes. And for example, to just make it like one concept to communicate, exactly what advertising does. Advertising always functions with like a concept. It really works. It really has an impact. But to achieve that, you need first to really know your audience. And I think the inspiration, that was the point I was thinking about now. Inspiration, always be inspired. How to create is actually you're inspired always by something. It's not coming like out of your mind like this. So for example, even in Lascaux, the cave of Lascaux, they reproduced something. They were inspired by the animals they were seeing around them. They were inspired by the people around them. It's exactly the same. Like you don't create from completely scratch. Like say good artists create, geniuses are actually copying. And I think it's also a good campaign is listening to people, and be inspired by people as well. And it's something I feel sometimes we are a bit egotistic. I was like, I'm going to find it myself. Perhaps it's a bit out there, and yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine it can be very challenging, especially when it comes to teamwork, because of course, when it's your job, you don't have the choice when you work on a project together. But I imagine that in teamwork, ego can be a challenge. Mm-hmm. So you shared this piece of advice to have your own project on the side, your own baby. But is it enough? Did you witness cases where really teamwork, being in a team, didn't help the project?
Depends on the client and the person in front of you. I think also it's ongoing work to understand one another. I feel like it's very rare to do a first campaign or first project with a client for the first time and it's like, boom, excellent. There's also a trust that you built, because also there's a lot of fear, because usually those campaigns ask a lot of money, a lot of effort and everything. So that's why there's some people who wants to, and we all know about this, micromanage everything. And the micromanagement is literally lethal for creativity. But micromanagement can be explained. They're explained by fear, can be explained by someone who is very junior, can be explained by also on the other side, people who are very junior. It's the first time they doubt themselves. Doubt is excellent, but it should be a bit more productive. So there's a lot of parameters that sometimes it won't work either. And even the fact that you can put your ego on the side, there's always perhaps someone who's never going to be happy because not able to do it themselves. that happens a lot, and I think you have to listen, and it's more building trust. So I found like communication campaigns, usually it's most of the time people's management. And I really like, for example, to involve in the creative part the clients or the person with me when I was working with consultants, to have like really in the brainstorm, the process, have people involved. Because again, creativity is a teamwork, really from the start. And after that, you never know. There's always people who's going to say, yes, but the neighbor of my grandmother don't like blue, so we change everything. And this, you can't do anything about it. This is why there's a small trick to say, don't take it personally, because it's going to take over your heart. So it's the only way to manage, and it's always going to happen.
Talking about the relationship between the client and the person in charge of the creative process, let's say over a campaign, when you were talking, I was starting to wonder, do you think you can manage to be creative while not being inspired by the request of the client? So is it possible to actually create a successful campaign while you are not aligned with the request / the values of the request?
I worked in advertising, so yes. I couldn't work for long. You can. Actually, you can. You always have to... that made me think of one of my teachers who always said that it's a little bit like when you create something for a brand, for example, or for like a communication project. It's a bit like a role play, like being an actor. Again, when I was saying like know your audience, so like try really be this role play to find ideas, and it's really true. So you need always a bit of empathy towards the client or the project you're working with. So it's true, you kind of better when you really have a real empathy towards a project. The only thing also can be the complete contrary when you're really involved, when it's something that you're really passionate about. It can go also to the extreme. So have to find kind of the right balance, something in between. So something you are not like, no, and something not completely too passionate, because like, again, it's your ego who's going to arrive more on the table, and it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be... We often say in creativity, when we find our ideas, that's just like, it's the right one. There's something kind of a balance that arrives, it's the right concept that's aligned. And when you have too much ego, because too much passion, too much emotion, there's something unbalanced that's going to happen.
I agree. When it's touching something you're passionate about, when it's your baby, you don't want people to come and give their ideas, because you have your idea and you have your vision on the project. So I understand. And can I ask, did you personally ever refuse a request because it was either something you were too passionate about or something you were like, wow, I am not aligned at all?
I'm not aligned at all, yes. Yeah, I refused. I'm too passionate about, sometimes I should have, yes. That's my ego. So my ego's like, whoops. Yeah. You learn. Like everyone does this type of project at some point. You have to do this mistake. It's also a creative process. It's also by learning. It's what I was saying. Like you learn, and to learn you have to do some mistakes. Some are more painful than others. Sometimes you say like, yeah, I can do this project, of course, when you're very junior, and you're like, oh my God, I don't have the capacity to do it, or because you're very passionate about it, and it's your ego who were talking, instead of you. So yeah, this happened, and I think happened to anyone, and I think it's good to do this type of mistakes, and I think it's good also when you're in a good team, because at the end of the day, the campaign has to be out. And it's really rare to have like a really horrible campaign. It's really, really rare when there's a bad buzz.
Yeah.
I found that we hear, the bad buzz, they are so loud, there are not that many.
Yeah, and it goes through so many layers and checks from multiple persons that I think it's really hard that that it goes through if it's really bad.
Yeah,
But I guess there are examples of bad campaigns.
There's plenty of examples of bad campaigns.
But we cannot really say it here what examples we have in mind.
We can talk, like in advertising, there was a few that like made the bad buzz, even if it went from different levels. And sometimes perhaps because people were too passionate, they loved the ideas, they didn't, for example, see there was something wrong.
We need to talk about the indicators. What is a good campaign?
Yeah.
It's difficult.
It's difficult.
I mean, there are so many indicators to take into consideration but probably the fact that it's something you notice and it stays in your head, it's pretty much a good indicator, I would say.
When the message is out, when the message is, I would say, retained, yes, it's like... it's actually should be the only thing on to say it's a successful campaign. It's not even like the numbers and everything. That means like it reached a lot of people, but it's a message known. It's like the awareness like worked. This is how you know that a campaign really, really worked, I think. And for this, you need plenty of different parameters. Again, like creativity is just one of them.
Yeah, and personally on your projects, like... Once you're done with one project, when do you think, like, okay, this was successful, this wasn't? Do you have a personal indicators where you're like, okay, I could have done better, or I could have changed that, or you're like, it's done, no regrets? Next project?
No, because I have a massive imposter syndrome, so I always want to make it better, and sometimes it wake me up at night or in the shower. I always have like ideas in the shower, and I was thinking, could have done this, could have done that. So I kind of stop myself to think like I'm not paid under my shower. So I'm like, stop. And it's also like you always can make it better, but it's kind of what makes us the difference between artists, producing a painting, or for example, a movie, and for example, people who are working in communication, when you're doing more like, for example, graphic design for communication, is that you can't be perfect. There's too many things, there's too many people involved to be perfect for you. So perfection in for example, something artistic, it's just belongs to you. Perfections in a communication campaign, it belongs to too many people.
Yes.
So perfection is not the same for everyone. It's as good as it can be.
Yes.
I try to tell myself that. It's not, then I'm still thinking, sometimes I look at stuff and say, should I move it there and do this color,
But you respected the main indicators, and that's,
Yeah. Like, you do as much as you can. Yeah. But again, there's like also the strategy behind, there's also the policy behind. There's so many people around it that that is not my perfection. And it's not their perfection either. We have to find kind of exactly like a middle ground, something that is going to work for the best. And that's why I'm saying also it's a real teamwork. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do amazing things, close to perfection.
Wow. I also wanted to go back to what you say. You often have great ideas under shower. It's really curious. I also have this. I don't know why the shower, and I think it's the case of a lot of people. So creativity is something that can catch you really anywhere, and at whatever time of the day or of the night. Do you have personal tips or preferences, or do you know personally for yourself what stimulates your creativity when you are going through, for example, this writer blocks phenomenon? So l'angoisse de la page blanche in French. Okay, where do you go? What do you do?
Again, depends on plenty of things. So there's a rabbit hole of Pinterest. So I think a lot of us know that. Like you start like, I love mood boards. So I started mood boards on Pinterest, and then I looked in my books. And so I have like, each time for ideas, because I'm very visual, I start a mood board. Then to find, for example, a real concept. So after that, I know that I have to let my brain shut off. So that's why usually it happens during the shower, because you're very relaxed and you don't think about anything else. So that's why it popped, because you relax. So I know I have to relax and not put too much in my head. So I do something with my hands. Usually for walks, there's plenty of people who have ideas when they're walking or after sports or things like that, because you relax, you let your brain a bit in peace. And it's exactly what a creative brain needs at some point, is a bit of peace. But there's also a lot of creativity happens in the making. So the moment you start to, for example, a writer, to write, and sometimes you shouldn't stop, even if it's not good. Continue writing, continue. The same for me, like draw. And sometimes I erase everything all the time on Procreate. And I'm like, okay, no, keep on drawing, try again, don't stop. And sometimes it helps also to be in the making. I don't know, I'm not a neurologist, but I feel it's another part of your brain who works, and it's how the ideas are also arriving. Be also in the action, not in the waiting for it to happen. Like,
a bit
the worst.
A bit fake it until you make it, kind of. Because you even if you're not happy about what you do, well, you continue, you force yourself.
Exactly. I find in creativity, and we talk a lot about this with my friends who are in the creative sector, illustrators or ceramists. There's a pain when you do that for a living, because you're always in an uncomfortable zone. You never ever find kind of a habit, because sometimes you find a good idea for this type of campaign like this, but for branding I have an entire process and it depends on the brand. It's never the same thing. And the problem is, if you do the same thing, we're bored, so we don't have ideas. So we know there's like a painful element. When you're creative, there's a painful element that you're going to be a bit like not happy. You're going to want perfection. There's always this element of like, I can't make it. But it's just, we're all just aware it's going to happen. And at some point, it's going to have to be out. You have no choice. Yes. Like a baby, it's going to have to be out.
That's a very nice comparison and very relevant, I think. But as you say, sometimes we are on fire. We have plenty of ideas for weeks, even months. You're on a little in the sky. There is no limit, and sometimes there is nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing for days, nothing for weeks, sometimes longer. That's terrible. And also recently, I listened to a woman. I think she was an entrepreneur. And she was saying that she is never booking appointments with new clients when she is in her premenstrual syndrome. So things like that, So she is very self-aware about it. And she knows that her creative process can be impacted by that. Mm-hmm. But then the question is, how do we cope with these moments when your creativity is your work, when you are in a contractual situation, in a binding situation, you have time constraint to deliver a project, and you are not able to get one idea out of your brain?
There's a kind of a trust in yourself, weirdly, something a bit... I think it comes with time as well, because before, for me, when I was more junior, this was pure anxiety. It's like, I'm never going to make it, voila. And with time, I really trust myself. It's like, okay, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I don't know how, but it's going to happen. And it's true. It always happened. I kind of always delivered. And I have plenty of different also steps when I know that, for example, it's going to be hard. So there's like the rabbit hole of Pinterest, talking to a friend, talking to another friend, go for a walk, shower. There's a keep on drawing, keep on writing, and restart the process again and again and again. Then it's tough when, for example, you're tired or you have multiple projects, to understand when it's the moment of like you're just doubt because you're anxious, or doubt because I don't feel it. So it's true when you have a lot and you're kind of alone, it's a bit difficult. And I always try to go for, talk to someone, try to have a, for example, even sometimes I talk to the clients, it's like, okay, I have doubts, can we have a chat or something like this, just to continue always the process. But weirdly, show must go on, like literally. So it always happen. It has to happen. So it always happen, and it depends on plenty of people. I don't know that many people who are creative in a more like crafty way, who do everything in advance. Seriously, I don't know that many people. Perhaps I'm around it. Voilà, my network, like they look like me, but it's kind of a bit last minute.
Mm-hmm. I have maybe a last question also, because I read about it. No, I found back a video that I registered about the art of color some time ago. I don't know why I registered it, but probably there was some sense about it, some meaning some time ago. And it was said in this video, it was an expert apparently in colors. And he was saying that he encourages employers to paint walls of the company in blue or green, because white doesn't trigger creativity.
Okay.
Would you have an advice to employers in the EO bubble, or by the way, not even in the EO bubbles, to employers in general, to encourage them to, promote creativity, the creativity of their employees? What can they put into place?
So I really don't know if the blue or the green walls gonna work. I have no idea, because theory of colors is huge. There's plenty of its theories, but I think just to encourage, there's perhaps first avoid to have like 20 people's brainstorm. Doesn't work, because again there's something also that is very personal. Perhaps there's a lot of juniors or other people who are not comfortable by sharing their ideas. I personally never have ideas during brainstorm. It's terrible. I'm always like, what? And I find like, oh, everyone is brighter than me, oh my god, and I have ideas the next morning. So also perhaps like small focus groups, don't call it brainstorm, perhaps do it like not even share ideas, but a chat about it. And perhaps also know some people are not comfortable to talk about, to speak out in front of 20 people. So I think already there's also the having conversations. I think it's kind of the first. And after that, there's plenty of different ways of, expressing your creativity. It's also to ask people what they are looking for. Do they want to also learn new skills? Like, again, I think drawing is a great way of communicating, and we don't use it as often. And everyone can draw something like just a circle or a square. So we can start from there. Painting also is very relaxing. I'm talking about crafting, and perhaps also having 101 design training, because like everyone think, I have Canva, I can do it. If it's on Canva or PowerPoint, if you don't know how to design it, it's not gonna be great. I have to confess. So voilà, there's plenty of different ways of also exploring your creativity. But for me, I think speaking, chatting to each other, and perhaps a more, how can I say, not flourish, a nice environment than just grey walls, put stuff on the walls. Yes, that can also be inspiring.
Yeah, maybe allow everyone to have their little corner where they could put stuff.
And push also people to be a bit more curious. I think it's something we didn't talk about, but like kind of one of the fuel of creativity is curiosity. And I don't find that companies in general push people to be curious, like to see a bit out, because also creativity is to see things in a different angle. It's not necessary to recreate the wheel, but really to see things on a different perspective. And sometimes you need to just be curious, like go to the museum, literally, go see a magazine and talk about it. So I think it's inspiration, chatting, and trying to position yourself in a really different angle. It can be just as simple as, for example, see a monument in a different angle as we see it every day. And just that, you say, oh yeah, I haven't seen it like this before. And so also look around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really it was super interesting this last part when you really link creativity to curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think that often I feel like we are not pushed to be curious because once again we are put into certain boxes in our job description and stuff. And it's not even a matter of job description, because I think you need to have a job description also to, you know, put certain boundaries and structures. So it's not even that. But I think, you know, people are like, oh yeah, but this stuff, it's the communication officers that will take care of that. Yeah, okay, it's the communication officer, but it doesn't prevent you to, as you say, to have a chat, to give also your own input. You can also be part of the process. You can inspire the communication officer, you know, that may be blocking over an idea, and you come, and this is where here I see that indeed teamwork can be very important, because it's not about one person that has to be creative and curious and the rest nothing.
That's why also when you do a campaign, having really as a creative to be involved at the beginning, because it's not like, for example, when you take scientific vulgarization, it's good to have like a fresh brain to be able to explain. When it's about I would say public affairs, it's super important to really understand what's happening. You can't come with a completely fresh brain. I find it really complicated, and I worked with some team when I was in a consultancy, when they didn't have a clue what they were doing sometimes, because it was really complex, and I had to explain multiple times. So having the creative and the policy person involved together from the beginning is super important. Even if the creative is going to be perhaps at the beginning more passive, it's super important to really understand, and having the comms person also involved as soon as possible. It is something also that's going to really enhance creativity, and it doesn't mean that the policy person can't say anything about the outcome of the communication project. It has a big importance, and I think the three is like a super team to make any type of project, especially in policy communication. So I think I'm really advocate for that, to have more policy people involved, and not saying oh, this is what I made, let's make a position paper. Perhaps we can have ideas and explain and have this chat. That is super important, because really as creative we really need to understand everything to be accurate and not be completely do a bad campaign completely really out of the wrong box, completely out. So
also because it happens, at least, I'm thinking about my past experiences, and it happens often that when you are not inclusive from the beginning, you arrive at the time of the project, you are already at the middle or even late stage in the project, and you have to do these reviews, and you think, it's one of the last reviews, and then it goes, and then you have somebody who says, but you didn't take that into consideration, and you put that, so you have to remove it and you have to find something else, and then you have to rethink completely, or at least a big part of the concept. So at the end of the day, not being inclusive is counterproductive for the whole thing. So
it can be, it can be. And also having sometimes not a real strategy. So it's also a very creative person, the person who's like a creative strategist or digital strategist, because it can also give another perspective and really think how to build things. So it's good to have. Normally in advertising agencies, you have a strategist, in French, it's a planeur stratégique. I think it's just a creative strategist in English. And it really make the link normally from the topic to the creative. There's not that many people like this in the EU bubble. Sometimes it has to be the comms person as well who does this strategic work. Sometimes the creative himself. I find it's really, really important, because it kind of make the house really hold everything all together. But again, I think chatting and really from the beginning it's the most important for creativity.
And on these beautiful words, we will finish the episode. So thank you for this really inspiring conversation. Actually, I asked much more questions that I had initially in mind because, you know, as we were talking, I got inspired. And of course, also, I will tag you on social media, and I count on you to do your auto-promotion because I know you have the imposter syndrome. But Emma will probably have some workshops in September in Brussels to be confirmed. Yeah. But if that's the case, I will be also happy to share on Kersal's account, of course, because for now it's not confirmed, but from what you told me, it sounds very exciting and inspiring, and I would like also to go. So, of course, I will keep everybody posted. That being said, we still have 2 things to do. Me, I have to announce the vote of the day, and it will actually be a vote for today's episode and the next episode because there will be a follow-up, but I'm not spoiling. And I think what this overall discussion inspired me, and when I was also preparing this topic, is that, you know, we are in Kersal's parliament, so, you know, it's a duplicata from the European Parliament where you can be even more ambitious. And what I would like to put on the table is the following proposal. So member states to actually include more courses on soft skills. I wouldn't call it soft skills then, you know, I would even change the name, but this is an amendment we can do. Because, you know, actually now in the real European Parliament, in the European Union, culture education, there are competencies from member states, so you cannot do anything about it. But I think that we can be more ambitious here and really aim at having this access to creativity promoted and accessible to all citizens in the EU, regardless of where they are living. Because once again, it's something that we all have within us, but we just need a little bit of support and push sometimes to make it grow. And I think it's super important, especially to start as from kids, to boost this creativity. Because this is something that also builds so many things in ourselves, like self-confidence. Yeah. It can also, you know, give you help to choose your professional path. So it's connected to many important topics. So I suggest that. I'm looking forward to see if we will have some amendments, reactions. And also we arrive still at the decortical moment, which is one of the favorite time of some viewers, I know it. So Emma, I will ask you to pick a color between red, yellow and green.
Red.
Red, I notice, is the color of the day because we didn't consult and we are both in red.
Both in red. Yeah.
And you pick the red.
Okay, so
I'll do it for you.
Okay.
You have to give me a number between 1 and 10. 4. I just need to do it again. So it's like going back to school. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have to pick a color.
Pick a color. I think there's pink.
Yeah. This one, yeah. It's a kind of pink taupe mauve. Question 23. It's a whole process.
Okay.
So it's a question that has nothing to do with today's episode. It's actually a question, you know, that is supposed to also goes into your creative brain.
Cool.
So question 23 is, if you had a time machine, would you rather travel to the future or to the past?
I know, really the past. I think you can learn more from the past. So many things happened. Like, you really want to see actually how was the people mentality, and I think we don't understand usually, because we always see history through the perspective of our eyes of the 21st century, but we don't understand how exactly was the mentality in the antique Rome, actually, or like even during the 20s and 1920s, the mentality after like this massive war. It was not the First World War, actually, it was the big war. They didn't expect there was a second. So what was the mentality of people? So I think the past.
I actually picked the same answer because I remember now that I had the same question with Alejandro from EDF. And I think he picked the future, if I remember correctly. I need to go back to the episode. But for me, it's the past for totally another reason. It's that I'm already a bit scared by the growing influence of artificial intelligence, the lack of control over it. The fact that nowadays we're more and more already on screens, we're not talking to each other, etc. So I would indeed tend to rather go back to the past, but depends which past, because as you say, I mean, wars, obviously it's a terrible time to live in, so, it's not great neither. But I think future scares me even more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Me too. I'm a bit like, no. As an anxious person, I'm a bit like, don't want to see the future. It's not going to help my anxiety.
That being said, let's stay focused on the present, because this is what triggers creativity as well.
Yeah.
And I think also it's connected to what you said, that doing things with hands helps a lot to stay in the present moment. Thank you again, Emma. Would you like to add something? Because I told that you would probably have workshops in September in Brussels, but do you have other projects coming up?
Yes. So I'm building a community with a partner, and a community of creative people within the EU bubble. So we want to gather not only creative people who are interested in policy communication, but also comms people and policy people to talk about creativity, to union forces as well, and we'll see. We have a lot of ambition for it. So.
That sounds wonderful. Once again, whenever it's ready, you send me the information, and I'm more than happy to share. Also because I'm very much interested in that. I think it's one of my main goals I discover over this year is to give more space to this creative part, because I think I neglected it for too long. So I will definitely pass the word on when it's ready.
Exactly.
So thank you, Emma. Thanks you again. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to think before you click, because we are all human beings at the end of the day. And see you soon for actually the last episode of the season coming after this one. Bye-bye.
Bye.